It was 11:47 p.m. on a Thursday, the kind of night where you should be asleep, but instead you're making decisions that will ruin your life. Diane was lying in bed, tangled in her sheets, 3 glasses of cheap wine deep into a self-pity party. She was holding her phone, scrolling through photos, feeling lonely. Then she remembered him, the stranger from the coffee shop that morning. He wasn't just handsome. He was devastating. Tall, broad shoulders, a suit that cost more than her car, and eyes that looked like they held 1,000 dark secrets. Diane giggled, the alcohol giving her confidence she didn't actually have. She opened her text to message her best friend, Kayla. She needed to gush. She typed fast, her thumbs flying over the screen. Girl, if you had seen this man. I'm talking 6'2" dark hair. Looked like he could ruin my life in the best way. I literally had to stop myself from asking him to take me right there on the counter. The things I would let him do to me. She added a few fire emojis. She hit send. She tossed the phone on the pillow and took another sip of wine, waiting for Kayla's reply. Buzz. The phone vibrated immediately. Diane picked it up, expecting a LMAO or a "you're thirsty." But the screen didn't say Kayla. The screen said, "Emergency contact, car accident guy." Diane stopped breathing. The wine turned sour in her stomach. She stared at the name. 3 months ago, she had witnessed a minor fender bender. A handsome Korean man in a black Mercedes. He had given her his number in case the insurance needed a witness. She saved it and forgot about it. Until now. She had just sent a text about doing things on a counter to a complete stranger. If you've ever wanted the earth to swallow you whole, hit that subscribe button right now. Because trust me, Diane's night is about to get so much worse. Diane's fingers trembled. She typed back frantically. OMG. Wrong number. I am so sorry. That was for my friend. Please delete that immediately. I'm mortified. She waited. The 3 little dots appeared. Then it disappeared. Then it appeared again. The response came in. It wasn't "no worries." It was cold, precise, terrifying. I need to know if this was intended for me. Answer now. Diane swallowed hard. Why was he so serious? No, she typed. It was a mistake. Please just forget it. The reply was instant. We need to talk in person. Tomorrow morning. I'll send a car. Diane sat up. A car? That's not necessary, she texted. Really, just delete it. This isn't optional, Miss Hayes. The car will arrive at 8 a.m. Be ready. She dropped the phone. How did he know her last name? She had only given her first name to the police officer that day. She tried to call the number. Click. An automated voice said, "This number does not accept incoming calls." Diane stared at her dark bedroom. She didn't know it yet, but the man on the other end of that phone wasn't just a car accident guy. He was Ji-hoon, and he didn't ask people to do things. He commanded them. At 7:45 a.m., Diane was standing in front of her closet, having a full-blown panic attack. What do you wear to meet a man you accidentally sexed who demanded your presence? She chose panic professional. Jeans, a nice blouse, sensible flats. At exactly 8 a.m. her phone buzzed. The car is outside. Driver Lee. Diane looked out the window. Her stomach dropped to her knees. It wasn't a taxi. It was a sleek black Mercedes sedan with tinted windows. A driver in a black suit stood by the door like a statue. Her instinct screamed run. But curiosity and fear pushed her out the door. The driver opened the door without a word. Where are we going? Diane asked, her voice shaking. Mr. Kim will explain, the driver said. His tone made it clear, stop talking. The ride took 20 minutes. They drove deep into the city, pulling up to a glass skyscraper that looked like it stabbed the clouds. The driver escorted her past security, straight to a private elevator. There was no button for the top floor, just a keycard slot. Beep. The elevator shot up. The doors opened directly into a penthouse. It was stunning. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the entire city. White marble floors. Modern art that probably cost more than Diane's entire bloodline. And standing by the window, hands in his pockets, was him. Hoon. He turned around. If Diane thought he was hot at the coffee shop, he was a god up close. Sharp cheekbones. Perfect skin. A tailored black suit that fit his broad shoulders like a second skin. But his eyes were dark pools of nothing. Miss Brooks, he said. His voice was deep, smooth, and accented. Thank you for coming. Did I have a choice? Diane managed to whisper. He smirked. A tiny, dangerous curl of his lip. No. But I appreciate you not making it difficult. He gestured to a leather couch. She sat on the edge, clutching her purse like a shield. I don't understand, Diane said. I sent a drunk text. It was embarrassing. I apologized. Why am I here? Ji-hoon pulled out his phone. He turned the screen to face her. It was her text. This message, he said calmly, was sent to my business line. The number I gave you months ago is not my personal phone. It is a monitored line. 4 of my associates have access to it. Diane felt the blood drain from her face. 4 people. 4 of my most trusted and gossiping lieutenants, Ji-hoon corrected. They saw your message. They saw you talking about the counter. Diane put her face in her hands. I want to die. It gets worse, Ji-hoon continued, pacing the room. My associates now believe I have a secret woman. A lover. Just tell them it was a wrong number. I did. Ji-hoon stopped and looked at her. They don't believe me. They think I am protecting your identity, because you are important to me. He leaned in closer. The smell of expensive cologne and danger filled Diane's nose. I am not just a businessman, Diane. I run a family organization. We have enemies, rivals, people who look for weakness. You mean the Mafia? She whispered. A crude word, he said. But essentially, yes. Because of your text, rumors are spreading. My rival Choi will hear about you within 48 hours. He will think you are my weakness. And he will try to break you to hurt me. Diane stood up. This is insane. I'm leaving. If you walk out that door, Ji-hoon said, his voice dropping an octave, you are on your own. Choi will find you. He will find where you work. He will find where you live. Diane froze. Tears pricked her eyes. So what do you want from me? Ji-hoon's expression softened just a fraction. I want to make a deal. I cannot stop the rumors. So we lean into them. What? Pretend to be my girlfriend, he said. For 2 months. If my enemies think you are mine, they will hesitate. They won't touch you because it would start a war. You will be under my protection. You want me to fake date a mafia boss? I want you to stay alive, he corrected. And I will compensate you. $25,000 now. $25,000 when it is over. $50,000. That could pay off her student loans. That could change her life. Or it could end it. Diane looked at this dangerous stranger. She looked at the city below. If I do this, she said, her voice trembling, I have rules. No sex. No kissing. This is business. Ji-hoon extended his hand. We will have to make it look convincing, Diane. But I agreed. Purely business. She took his hand. It was the most dangerous handshake of her life. Deal, she whispered. The next 72 hours felt like a fever dream. Diane didn't just visit Ji-hoon's world. She was dragged into it. Ji-hoon's security team moved her belongings into a luxury apartment 3 floors below his penthouse. It was beautiful, 2 bedrooms, a kitchen that looked like it belonged in a magazine, and a view of Los Angeles that cost a fortune. But it wasn't home. It was a golden cage. Diane barely had time to unpack her toothbrush before the doorbell rang. It wasn't Ji-hoon. It was an older Korean woman with a face made of stone and a clipboard in her hand. I am Mrs. Park, she said, walking past Diane without asking. Mr. Kim sent me. We have work to do. Diane stood there holding a box of books. Work. Mrs. Park opened Diane's closet. She pulled out Diane's favorite oversized hoodie, the one she wore when she needed comfort. She looked at it like it was a dead rat. Burn this, Mrs. Park commanded. Hey, that's my favorite. Diane protested, snatching it back. Mrs. Park turned around slowly. Her eyes were not unkind, but they were serious. Comfort is for people who are safe, Miss Hayes. You are dating Ji-hoon now. You are not safe. You are on display. She gently took the hoodie back and dropped it into a trash bag. People will judge you, Mrs. Park continued. They will say you do not belong. They will say you are a gold digger. We must give you armor so their words cannot hurt you. For the next 4 hours, Diane was poked, prodded, and measured. Mrs. Park replaced her sneakers with heels that looked like weapons. She replaced her jeans with silk trousers and tailored blouses. By the end of the day, Diane looked in the mirror and didn't recognize herself. She didn't look like a struggling student anymore. She looked expensive. She looked dangerous. She looked like she belonged to a mafia boss. That evening was the debut. The event was an art gallery opening in Koreatown. It was the perfect place to show the world that Ji-hoon was Taken. Jihoon knocked on her door at 7 p.m. sharp. Diane opened it. She was wearing a midnight blue dress selected by Mrs. Park. It was modest in the front, but when she turned, the back was completely open, showing her glowing skin. Jihoon froze. His hand, which was reaching to adjust his tie, stopped in midair. His dark eyes traveled from her heels up to her eyes. He didn't say anything for a long 5 seconds. The silence stretched until Diane started to fidget. "Do I look okay?" Diane asked. "Is it too much?" Jihoon exhaled, a sound that was half sigh, half growl. "You look." He cleared his throat, forcing himself to look away. "You look perfect. Maybe too perfect." He stepped closer, the scent of his cologne wrapping around her. "Listen to me, Diane. Tonight eyes will be on us. My enemies will be there. We must look like we are in love. But we must also be careful." He took her hand. His skin was warm against hers. "If you feel unsafe, if anyone says something that scares you, squeeze my hand twice. That is our signal. I will get you out immediately." Diane nodded, looking at their joined hands. "Squeeze twice. Got it." He offered his arm. "Ready to play the part?" "No," she admitted. "But let's go anyway." The gallery was a converted warehouse, filled with modern art and people who smelled like old money. As soon as they walked in, the room went quiet. Heads turned. Whispers started. Jihoon didn't flinch. He placed his hand on the small of Diane's back. His palm was heavy, possessive. He guided her through the crowd like a shield. "Smile," he whispered in her ear. "They are watching." Diane smiled until her face hurt. She shook hands with art collectors who looked at her with confusion, wondering who this black woman was on the arm of the silent king. For an hour it went smoothly. But then the air in the room changed. It got colder. "He is here," Jihoon whispered. His muscles tensed under his suit. Diane followed his gaze. Walking through the door was a man in a gray suit. He was older, maybe 50, with a smile that didn't reach his eyes. "Choi." He walked straight toward them, flanked by 2 bodyguards. "Jihoon," Choi said, his voice loud enough for people nearby to hear. "I didn't expect to see you. And who is this?" He turned his gaze to Diane. He didn't look at her face. He looked her up and down in a way that made her feel dirty. "This is Diane Hayes," Jihoon said, his voice icy. "My girlfriend." "Girlfriend?" Choi laughed. "How modern. I didn't think you had time for distractions, Jihoon." Choi stepped closer to Diane, invading her personal space. "You are very beautiful, Miss Hayes. But you should be careful." "Why is that?" Diane asked, surprised by her own boldness. Choi's smile vanished. His eyes went dead. "Because Jihoon's world is dangerous. And pretty things are so easy to break." It was a threat. Plain and simple. Diane felt fear spike in her chest. Without thinking, she squeezed Jihoon's hand. 1, 2. The signal. Jihoon didn't hesitate. He stepped physically between Diane and Choi, blocking the older man's view. "We are leaving," Jihoon said. "Now." He didn't wait for a response. He grabbed Diane's waist and marched her out of the gallery, leaving a stunned crowd behind them. In the car, Jihoon was shaking with rage. "He threatened you," Jihoon hissed, hitting the steering wheel. "He looked you in the eye and threatened you." "I'm okay," Diane whispered, though her hands were trembling. "No." Jihoon turned to her, his eyes blazing. "You are not okay. This is real now, Diane. He knows you matter to me. And he will try to use that." 1 week later, the danger wasn't coming from the Mafia. It was coming from someone much scarier. Diane's best friend, Kayla. Kayla had been calling Diane for days. Diane had been dodging her, making up excuses about work, flu, or bad reception. But you can only ghost your best friend for so long. On Tuesday morning, Diane picked up the phone. "Girl." Kayla's voice was loud enough to crack the screen. "You have exactly 10 seconds to tell me why you moved out of your apartment in the middle of the night, and why you're living in a building that costs more than my entire life." Diane froze. I told you I'm seeing someone." "Seeing someone? You're practically in witness protection." Kayla snapped. "I looked up the address you sent me. That is the Sky Tower, Diane. Only millionaires live there." "Who is this man? Is he a drug dealer? Is he 90 years old?" "He's complicated," Diane said weakly. "I don't care if he's the Prince of Wakanda," Kayla said. "I am meeting him. Tomorrow. Lunch. Non-negotiable." Diane hung up, terrified. She went to Ji-hoon's office. He was on a call, speaking rapid-fire Korean to his lieutenants. When he saw her, he hung up immediately. "What is wrong?" he asked, standing up. "Is it Choi?" "Worse," Diane said. "My best friend. She thinks I've been kidnapped by a sugar daddy. She wants to meet you." Diane expected him to say no, to say it was too dangerous. Instead, Ji-hoon nodded slowly. Good. Good. Diane blinked. Lying to the Mafia is one thing, Ji-hoon. Lying to Kayla is impossible. She's a lawyer. She smells like lies. She needs to believe we are real, Ji-hoon said calmly. If your friends think we are fake, they might gossip. And if they gossip, my enemies will hear. She must be convinced. He checked his watch. Book the table. Somewhere expensive. I will be charming. The next day, Diane sat at Le Monde, one of the swankiest restaurants in downtown LA. Kayla was sitting across from her, arms crossed, looking suspicious. So, Kayla narrowed her eyes. He's coming? Or is he going to send a driver? He's coming, Diane said, checking the door nervously. And then he did. The entire restaurant seemed to go quiet. Ji-hoon walked in. He wasn't wearing his usual black, I might kill you suit. He was wearing a navy blue blazer, crisp white shirt, no tie. He looked relaxed, rich, and devastatingly handsome. He walked straight to their table. He didn't look at the waiters. He didn't look at the menu. He looked straight at Diane. Sorry I'm late, he said softly. He leaned down. Diane expected a handshake, maybe a side hug. Instead, Ji-hoon cupped her face with one hand and kissed her on the cheek. It wasn't a quick peck. It was slow, intimate. He lingered just long enough to make Diane's toes curl. I missed you, he whispered against her ear. Then he turned to Kayla and flashed $1 million smile. You must be Kayla. Diane talks about you constantly. Kayla's jaw was on the floor. She stood up, blinked, and shook his hand. Damn. Okay. I see why you moved. Ji-hoon sat down, pulling his chair close to Diane's, too close. His knee brushed hers under the table. So, Kayla recovered quickly, putting her lawyer face back on. Let's cut the small talk. Who are you? And what are your intentions with my best friend? Diane kicked Kayla under the table. Kayla. It is okay, Ji-hoon laughed. It was a warm sound. I would ask the same questions. I'm Ji-hoon. I run a family business. Import, export, real estate investments. Family business, Kayla raised an eyebrow. That's vague. Is it legal? Diane stopped breathing. Ji-hoon didn't flinch. It is complicated. We have many interests. But the short version is, I am financially stable and I can take care of Diane. Diane can take care of herself, Kayla shot back. She's independent. I know, Ji-hoon said. And suddenly his voice changed. He wasn't playing a character anymore. He turned to look at Diane. That is what I admire about her. She stood up to me the first time we met. She has fire. She doesn't need me. But she chooses to be with me. That is why I am lucky. The table went silent. Diane looked at him. His eyes were sincere. He wasn't talking about the fake girlfriend. He was talking about her. About how she handled the threats, the kidnapping attempts, the madness. For a second, Diane forgot it was a lie. Wow, Kayla whispered. Okay. You pass. Lunch ended. Ji-hoon paid the bill without looking at it. He walked them to the valet stand. I like him, Kayla whispered to Diane while Ji-hoon was getting the car. He looks at you like you're the only person in the world. Just be careful, okay? He seems intense. I will, Diane promised. I'm happy. Really. And the scary part? She wasn't lying. Ji-hoon drove them back to the penthouse in silence. The playful energy from lunch evaporated. You were good back there, Diane said quietly. Kayla totally bought it. I wasn't lying, Ji-hoon said, keeping his eyes on the road. About what? About admiring you, he said. Most people run from me, Diane. You stayed. You are stronger than you think. He pulled up to the curb. He didn't unlock the doors immediately. But do not get used to it, he said, his voice turning cold again. Today was a performance. Tomorrow we are back to the war. Choi is planning something. I can feel it. Diane felt the warmth leave her body. Right. The war. She wasn't his girlfriend. She was his assignment. But as she looked at his profile, she realized the problem. She didn't want the performance to end. 2 days later, the pretend world shattered. Diane was leaving her office building. It was 6 p.m. The sun was setting, casting long shadows on the street. She was checking her phone, smiling at a meme Kayla had sent her. She felt safe. She had security, right? She didn't see the black van idling at the curb until the side door slid open with a violent screech. Two men jumped out. They weren't wearing suits. They were wearing tactical gear and masks. They moved fast. "Get in the van, Miss Hayes," one of them growled, grabbing her arm. His grip was like iron. "Let go of me," Diane screamed, dropping her phone. She tried to pull away, but he dragged her toward the open door. Inside, she saw only darkness. "Mr. Choi wants to have a word," the man sneered. Diane dug her heels into the pavement. This was it. She was going to disappear. But before they could throw her inside, screech. Ji-hoon's security detail, the men who had been shadowing her invisibly, swarmed the scene. 3 SUVs blocked the street. 4 men in suits jumped out, guns drawn, aiming directly at the kidnappers. "Let her go," the head of security roared. "Or you die right here." For 10 terrifying seconds, nobody moved. It was a standoff in the middle of Los Angeles. Then the kidnapper cursed. He shoved Diane onto the sidewalk, jumped back into the van, and they peeled away, tires burning rubber. Diane sat on the concrete, scraping her hands, gasping for air. She looked at her phone, shattered on the ground. The game was over. The war had started. That night, Diane was back at her apartment, shaking as she packed a bag. But she wasn't moving fast enough for Ji-hoon. He stormed through her front door. He wasn't the cool, collected CEO tonight. He was wild-eyed. His tie was undone. He looked like a man who had seen a ghost. "Why are you not ready?" he shouted. "We are leaving. Now. Upstairs to the penthouse." "Stop yelling at me," Diane yelled back, throwing a shirt into her suitcase. "I almost got kidnapped today. Give me a second." Ji-hoon crossed the room in 2 strides. He grabbed her shoulders. "You don't understand," he shook her gently. "They touched you. Choi's men put their hands on you. I know. I was there. You think this is about control?" Ji-hoon's voice cracked. The anger drained out of him, leaving only raw, naked fear. He looked into her eyes, breathing hard. "This isn't about the deal anymore, Diane. It is about terror. Terror. The thought of losing you." He whispered, his voice trembling. "The thought of them hurting you. It makes me want to burn this entire city down." Diane froze. The room went silent. That wasn't a line from a contract. That was a confession. You mean that?" she whispered. "I have never been more terrified in my life," Ji-hoon admitted. "Please, move into the penthouse. Stay where I can see you, where I know you are breathing." Diane looked at this dangerous man who was brought to his knees by the thought of losing her. She dropped her suitcase zipper. "Okay," she said softly. "Let's go home." Moving into the penthouse changed everything. There were no more guest rooms. No more pretending. They fell into a routine that felt dangerously like a marriage. They drank coffee together in the morning, watching the sunrise over the city. She worked from his library while he handled business. But the business was getting bloodier. Choi was escalating. Warehouses were being burned. Shipments were being stolen. One night it was raining hard. Thunder shook the glass walls of the penthouse. Diane was waiting up on the couch, wrapped in a blanket, unable to sleep. Ji-hoon was late. At 2 a.m. the elevator dinged. Ji-hoon walked in. He stood in the entryway, water dripping from his hair. But it wasn't just water. His white shirt was soaked in red. Blood. So much blood. Diane gasped, throwing the blanket off. "Ji-hoon." She ran to him, her hands hovering over his chest. "You're hurt. Oh my God, you're shot." "It's not my blood," Ji-hoon said. His voice was dead. "Hollow." He looked at his own hands, stained red. "Choi attacked one of my distribution centers. He killed 2 of my men." Ji-hoon looked up at Diane, waiting for her to scream, waiting for her to run away from the monster. "I handled it," he said coldly. "I killed 3 of them myself. As a message." He closed his eyes. "I am sorry you have to see this. I am a monster." Diane looked at the blood. Then she looked at the man. She didn't run. She reached out and began to unbutton his shirt. "You're not a monster," she whispered, her fingers steady. "You're protecting us." Ji-hoon's eyes snapped open. "Diane." "Sure," she said. "Take this off. I'll run you a shower. I'll make you food." She peeled the ruined shirt off his chest, revealing the scars underneath. She wasn't disgusted. She was devoted. Ji-hoon grabbed her hand, pressing it against his cheek. He looked at her with something like worship. "How are you real?" he choked out. "I'm right here," she said. "Now get in the shower. We'll deal with the rest tomorrow." He kissed her palm. It was a promise, but they both knew. The final battle was coming. The bloody shirt was a turning point. Ji-hoon realized he couldn't keep fighting a war on two fronts. He couldn't protect his territory and protect Diane. 2 days later, he made a decision. He walked into the living room where Diane was working. He was dressed in his most formal black suit. He looked like he was going to a funeral. "I am going to meet Choi," he said calmly. Diane stood up. "What? You said he wants to kill you." "I am going to negotiate a truce," Ji-hoon said. "We will divide the territories permanently. We will establish rules. The war ends tonight." "And if he shoots you?" Diane asked, her voice shaking. Ji-hoon walked over to his desk. He pulled out a thick envelope and handed it to her. "This is my will," he said. "If I do not walk back through that door in 3 hours, open it. The penthouse is yours. The legitimate businesses are yours. There is enough money in the offshore accounts for you to disappear and live like a queen for the rest of your life." Diane stared at the envelope. She didn't take it. She slapped it out of his hand. "I don't want your money," she screamed, tears springing to her eyes. "I want you to come back." Ji-hoon froze. He looked at the envelope on the floor, then at Diane. He pulled her into his arms, burying his face in her neck. He held her tight like he was trying to memorize the feel of her. "I promise," he whispered into her hair. "I will fight like hell to come back to you." Then he turned and walked out the door. The lock clicked shut. Diane was alone. The next 4 hours were the longest of Diane's life. She couldn't eat. She couldn't sit. She paced the marble floors until her feet hurt. Every sound, the elevator dinging, the wind against the glass, made her jump. She imagined the worst. She imagined a phone call from the police. She imagined Choi laughing. Mrs. Park sat in the corner watching her. "He will be fine," the older woman said softly. "Ji-hoon is smart. He does not take risks." "He took a risk on me," Diane whispered. "That was not a risk," Mrs. Park smiled. "That was fate." Suddenly the elevator chimed. Diane spun around. Her heart hammered against her ribs. The doors slid open. Ji-hoon stepped out. He looked exhausted. His tie was loose. He had a bruise forming on his jaw. But he was alive. And he was smiling. "It is done," he said, his voice raspy. Diane didn't wait for details. She ran across the room and collided with him. He caught her, lifting her off her feet, burying his face in her shoulder. "We have a truce," he murmured. "Territory is divided. Witnesses from 3 other families were there. He cannot touch us now. It's over." Diane sobbed. "The war is over," he promised. "We are safe." That evening, the atmosphere in the penthouse changed. The tension was gone, replaced by a strange quiet. Ji-hoon poured 2 glasses of wine. He handed one to Diane. "There is something we need to discuss," he said, sitting down next to her on the sofa. "Our arrangement was for 2 months. Diane felt her stomach drop. "Right. 2 months. "It has been 2 months, Ji-hoon said. "Technically. The contract is fulfilled. You are free." He looked at his hands. "I promised you a choice. You can take the money. I will set you up in a safe apartment. You can go back to your normal life. No more danger. No more mafia." "Is that what you want?" Diane asked. "You want me to leave?" "No." Ji-hoon looked up, his eyes fierce. "God, no. I want you to stay. But I cannot force you. This life, it is not easy. It will always be dangerous." Diane looked at this man. The man who had terrified her at first, but who had become her protector, her partner, her best friend. She thought about her old life. Boring. Safe. Lonely. Then she looked at Ji-hoon. "I don't want to be safe," she whispered. "I want you." Ji-hoon let out a breath he had been holding for weeks. "Good," he said. "Because I have a surprise." He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small velvet box. Diane's heart stopped. "A ring? Already?" Ji-hoon laughed nervously. "It is not a ring. Not yet. We have only known each other for 2 months." He opened the box. Inside lay a delicate gold chain with a small diamond-encrusted key pendant. "This is the key to the penthouse," he said softly. "Your key." I don't want you here as a guest, Diane. I don't want you here as an employee. He fastened the necklace around her neck. The cool metal rested against her skin. I want you here as family. Permanently. Diane touched the key. Permanently. Permanently. He vowed. My home is your home. 6 months later. The penthouse was different now. There were flowers in the vases. Diane's books were on the shelves. It wasn't a fortress anymore. It was a home. Diane stood in front of the mirror, adjusting her dress. They were going to a family dinner with Ji-hoon's uncle. But this time she wasn't nervous. She knew the game. She knew the players. She was part of the family. Ji-hoon walked up behind her. He wrapped his arms around her waist, resting his chin on her shoulder. You look beautiful, he whispered. I know, she teased. You tell me every day. I have to, he said. Because I still can't believe a wrong number brought you to me. Best mistake of my life, Diane smiled. Ji-hoon turned her around to face him. His expression turned serious. I have something for you, he said. It's not my birthday, Diane laughed. I don't need an occasion. He reached into his pocket. He pulled out another velvet box. This one was different. Smaller. Heavier. Diane stopped breathing. 2 months was too soon, Ji-hoon said softly. But 8 months? 8 months of waking up next to you? 8 months of you trusting me with your life. He dropped to one knee. Diane put her hands over her mouth. Tears streamed down her face. Ji-hoon opened the box. A diamond solitaire sparkled in the light. Marry me, Diane Hayes, he said. Not for protection. Not for a deal. But because I love you more than I thought it was possible to love anyone. Yes, Diane choked out. Yes. 1,000 times yes. He slid the ring onto her finger. He stood up and kissed her,